Hello and welcome to the NAB AFL Trade Wrap, where we'll look at who your club picked up, who you lost and which teams did the best work over the trade period. I'm CARLTON, and joining me today are Peter Ryan and Nick Bowen. Welcome, guys. You know, we've had a busy couple of weeks. We're going to do this in two parts as we work our way through the teams in alphabetical order. So let's begin with the Adelaide Crows, who lost a midfielder and failed in their bid to land Bryce Gibbs. Pete, your thoughts on their trade period?
Well, you've got to say, Cal, that it was a disappointing trade period from the Crows. They dropped the biggest bombshell probably on the opening day when they said that Bryce Gibbs wanted to return to Adelaide where he grew up, despite having 3 years remaining on his contract with Carlton, and they couldn't get that deal done. They lost Jared Lyons to the Suns when their objective really was to get a midfield and strengthen that midfield. So therefore, it is probably a failure, I'd say, from the Adelaide Crows.
All right, what's your grade?
Well, failure, when I say a failure, D.
D. All right, not a good start for the Crows. Now, next up is the Brisbane Lions, who gave up a match winner, but will take a strong hand to the draft, Nick.
They will, Cal, and I think it was really all about improving their draft order for the Lions, given where they're at. So they've done that. They've lost Pierce Hanley, but that helped them do it. They've gained a bit player in Jack Frost to sort of shore up their defence a little bit. So they've done what they needed to do, but not a spectacular trade period.
What do you think of their assessment?
I'm going to give them, Cal, a B-.
B-, looking a little bit better for the Lions. Carlton, now to the Blues. They stood firm on Bryce Gibbs and continue their Giants obsession, Pete.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many. It's up to close to 10 Giants now on their list, or ex-Giants. They did a good trade period, really. They wanted to get Caleb Marchbank in and they wanted to hold on to pick 5. So those two ticks. They held firm on Bryce Gibbs. Adelaide couldn't come to the party.
Should they have traded him, Pete? Pick 13 would have been handy in their list rebuild.
It's a really good question, Nick. I think if Adelaide had come to a bit better deal, they would have traded him. But if you've got a guy on a 5-year deal and there's still 3 years to run, you're entitled to play a pretty hard bargain to actually get rid of him. They offloaded Zach Tui for a good pick, really, a future first-round pick. I think it was a pretty good performance by the Blues.
What are you giving him?
I give him a B-.
Jared Pickett and old mate Reece Chicken Palmer. I like the additions there.
The Jana.
Collingwood. They went hard on the free agents but lost 5 senior players, Nick. What did you think?
I thought it was a bit of a mixed bag, Cal. Daniel Wells, for mine, turns 32 before next year. I don't know that he really fits into the Pies demographic or their age profile. Oh, he's a very exciting player. Chris Maynor, I think, will help them down forward. Very honest sort of player. Will Hoskin-Elliott, a very good value pick there for them as well. So I think it was a good period. But then again, you look at
what does Wells do for them?
Oh, well, he's just elite, Kelly. He's a great runner. He's uses the ball really well. And look, I think as well, he's really underrated in terms of how tough he is and how good an inside midfielder he is as well. So I think that he's certainly a valuable addition. But I just think it was a bit of a mixed bag from the Pies.
All right, your grade?
My grade is B-.
You weren't quite sure on that.
The screen knew before you did. That's incredible. Now, the Bombers, they land some key forward support and keep their prize pick 1. Pete, what do you make of their couple of weeks?
Well, a lot of their work was done during the season before the trade period in re-signing or making sure that those suspended 12, most of them committed. Michael Hibbard, the only loss. They got a second-round pick in for that. They dealt with that effectively and sensibly, and that was probably a good result. They also get James Stewart in, who's pretty handy foil for Joe Danaher. I like it. Wasn't a very active period, but really it's a stabilising year for the Bombers.
All right, so what do you make of it?
I give it a C.
C, OK, and come on down, Hugh McCluggage or Andy McGrath with pick 1. The Dockers brought in 4 local talents and remain at the top of the draft. That means for a pretty good, successful couple of weeks, Nick.
I think an extremely successful couple of weeks, Cal. They've been long looking to improve their spine. They do that with McCarthy up forward, Hamling down back and Kirsten up forward. And also add the run of Brad Hill, who should be ideally suited to Subiaco Oval. So,
isn't it great to see McCarthy back? And good credit to the Giants to get that deal done with Fremantle.
Oh, exactly right. And I think that it's a win-win for both clubs. And I think that it'd be great to see him, as you say, Pete, try and get his career back on track back home in WA.
How good is Joel Hamlin?
Well, it's a big question, isn't it? I think that he's really only played sort of a handful of games, and he came. I think it's fair to say that his form improved enormously late in the 2016
His final series
season
was outstanding, and he's won a premiership, and no one could deny him going for a bit of a deal back home. And those 4 guys are Western Australians, and they're all 23 or under, so that's a good result.
Your grade, Nick?
An A. Fantastic trade period.
An A for the Dockers from Nick Bowen. Now, Geelong was very busy again. They've given up another first-round pick and some talented younger players. Have they got it right, Peter Ryan?
Well, it's a really tough one to assess, the Cats. Josh Caddy we thought that that'd be part of the Brett Deledio deal, and it made sense getting Brett Deledio in as a classy player, and they might have to give up something. Josh Caddy. In the end, they got a second-round pick for Josh Caddy.
They seem to have given up so much.
Yeah, well, Josh Caddy fell behind Sam Menegola, and Scott Selwood towards the end of the season was starting to look on the fringe of selection. Shane Kirsten wanted more opportunities, didn't get picked for the finals. Smets and Vardy have been injury-riddled, and so they get another opportunity, which is good.
Do the Cats hate the draft, Peter? They're giving away first-round picks like they're going out of fashion.
They're very lucky to get that ruling to actually allow them to trade in Zach Tui, which they need a running defender. So, you know, I mean, it was a bit of a mixed bag for the Cats.
What's your grade?
C+.
C+ for the Cats from Peter Ryan. Gold Coast, on to the big players in the trade period. They hold 4 top 10 picks, but lost 2 star mids. Did the standoff work out, Nick?
I think it did, Kel. They ended up driving a better bargain than they would have otherwise got from Hawthorn. But, geez, it was a close-run thing, wasn't it? It went down to the wire.
Probably cut a couple of years off Graham Wright's life too.
I think it did. And I'm sure some of the people associated with Gold Coast, not to mention Jago O'Meara's manager as well, Colin Young. But, look, I think that at the end of the day, Kel, they wanted experienced players. They haven't really got really many have. I think Hanley's a good pick.
What can he do?
Pierce Hanley gives them a lot of drive off the back line, doesn't he?
And he's classy, his experience, his form
is
tailed off at Brisbane, but he's a much better player.
At his best, he's an elite player, isn't he? And a good ball user. He's going to give them run. I think what I'd say with that, Kel, is that they probably wanted to really improve their midfield the most, didn't they? And Jared Lyons, I think, will be a handy pickup, but he's certainly not a star. So that's really, I suppose, the query for mine on that one.
All right, put your school teacher's hat on.
I'm going to give them a B. I think they salvaged what could have been a disastrous trade period.
On to the Giants. Now, they shed their whole 2014 draft, which is pretty incredible, 5 players there, plus another 4 players, but might have brought in the final piece of the puzzle as they searched for that elusive first flag.
Well, they went about it the right way. They had to shave a lot off their salary cap. They're coming back to the field a little bit in that. They'd extended contracts of a lot of guys like Paul Ahern, Jared Pickett, and they had to get rid of them. They wanted to keep Jack Steele, but he went to St Kilda. Fair enough, he wasn't getting opportunities. Caleb Marchbank was a little bit homesick, and they made that work for them. And they got the cream on the top. Brett Deledio, he's a class player. He could be the difference. Wayne Campbell said post-trade period they might use him up forward, but he can play anywhere, really. They're still well positioned in the draft in terms of getting those academy picks. So I reckon they've done a really good job during this trade period.
Give them an assessment.
I'd give them an A.
A for the Giants?
Yeah.
Good work, boys. So that brings us to the end of part 1 of the NAB AFL trade wrap. Keep an eye out on afl.com.au for part 2, where we'll do the remaining teams from Hawthorn to the reigning premiers, the Western Bulldogs. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.